We're going to start this video off at the end of the video because where we originally started, we totally messed it up. Christina and I were getting ready to go to the Overland Expo Pacific Northwest, and we decided to film this really great intro lead-in video, and we forgot to turn the microphone on, so none of the sound recorded, and we didn't figure it out until we were reviewing video after we got home. And that happened a couple of times to us during the course of the expo, so there's some video in there that's unusable. I'm going to try and recover this as much as I can. So I made sure the microphone was turned on this time, and I actually have a backup audio in place to make sure that we're covered. Maybe wind noise today, it's kind of windy, so forgive that if that's the case. But basically where we're at with our build is we want to see what other overlanders are doing with their builds, what their storage looks like, what they're packing, what they're not packing, different things like that. A lot of overland van builders are building out so that everything is inside the van. The bed, the kitchen, everything is inside the van, and they basically live in their van. I don't want to do that because we want to be able to sometimes haul passengers. So we're going to take the third row seat out, but we're going to keep the second row seat, so that's not really conducive to us having a bed and a kitchen and all that stuff in here. So I think that what we're going to do, I think that we're going to set up our van kind of like with the Toyota 4Runners, Land Cruisers, the basic SUV setup, except we just have a little bit more space, a little bit more comfort. We're going to have a rooftop tent on top, and then in the back where the third row seating is, we're going to have storage for our kitchen supplies, our recovery gear, tools, things like that. So we're going to have a little bit more storage space than most overlanders have, but otherwise we're basically going to be set up like an overlander. So the mission for this trip going to the Overland Pacific Northwest was that we wanted to look at all of the different vehicles that we could find, their different setups and how they were doing things, so that we could kind of develop our own plan. And the other thing we wanted to do was we wanted to get a refrigerator. I feel like our build was kind of starting to evolve around the space we need for the refrigerator. So everything else is kind of flexible as far as that goes. So we needed to know what we were working with from there, so then we could kind of take off from that point. The other thing that we wanted to do was we wanted to look at the different kind of rooftop tent setups and the different kind of roof rack setups for vans. It's an Astro van. They don't make a roof rack for an Astro van, so we have to kind of improvise and figure out what is going to work. And whatever it is, whatever kind of roof rack we're going to have has to work with a rooftop tent, because that is the whole point. It's the basis of our whole plan here. So it was a researching opportunity for us. Plus we get to go hang out with cool people and other overlanders and swap stories and get advice, and man, this particular trip was really big on that. Not knowing what to expect, we were pleasantly surprised when we got there that there was lots of grassy space for us to camp on. Oh, hey, look, there's our Astro van. It was really, that was really a benefit to showing up on Friday. If there were any benefits, that was the benefit to showing up on Friday, is all the Friday people were kind of spaced out a little bit more, unlike the people that had showed up there early Friday, and those that had showed up on Thursday were packed in there much, much tighter. You'll see here in this next slide that they're just really, really in there tight, and looks like they had more gravel area than they did grass. But one thing that we noticed was just how all of the rooftop tents, there's so many rooftop tents, and then just there was a lot of Jeeps and a lot of Toyotas, but Also a lot of really interesting, unique vehicles. I think that's one of the things we're going to explore next year, is get around and see some of the unique vehicles and kind of showcase them in our expo video, like this great big behemoth. This thing was actually for sale. The star of the show, though, really seemed to be the Ford Broncos. They really were going all out on putting the Ford Broncos front and center, and everybody was loving them, and they had their own area to camp in. But I was really there to drive a Jeep, and super excited to get to drive a Jeep.
Now I got it.
That glass bump is gonna Have you had anybody scare you yet today?
That lady that drove the Subaru last, she came over the top of the mountain, so I bottomed out the car. I was like,
I saw that.
man, seriously?
That's not what that hill's for.
No. So we're gonna creep up, right?
Yeah.
And then when we crest the top and the nose starts to come down, cover the brake, go down to we're fully inverted, and then just stop on the side of the thing, and then you'll have the sensation of being pointed straight down. This is like, you don't need to go crazy acceleration to get up this, just
Steady.
tread
Wow, it
lightly.
just feels like we're gonna launch.
That's why you don't go fast.
Go to the left a little bit. There you go. Now brake. There you go. Slowly. Keep going. Stop right there.
Treat. That's crazy.
Alright, you can roll out. And then, did you want to drive?
No.
Okay. Just pull around where you guys got the Jeep before, because the next...
Central Oregon is known for its stunning mountain views, which made for a beautiful backdrop for lots of great photos, and the beautiful weather that we had was amazing for camping, and it gave us just some stunning sunsets. But the one thing that was better than the sunsets was waking up with the sun and an equally beautiful sunrise the next morning. Okay, we didn't get it on video, but I feel like we made out like bandits today.
We definitely did.
We not only did we find a refrigerator, but we also got
a big refrigerator, bigger than what we were looking for.
a really, yeah. Oh, and we got a really cool fire pit. We're going to show you here once we get it back to camp and all that. But we also got a really cool deal on a light for camp. And we'll probably be showing you that when we go on our outing in August. It's super, super cool.
We got some good deals today.
Yeah.
I feel like a winner.
I was a little skeptical after walking around all day yesterday.
Everything
and,
was really
high price and all that, and then we just managed to
find the right people,
find the right
booths.
people, and find some really cool deals. So super exciting. And Sunday here at the Overland Expo in Redmond, it's not quite as crowded, and a lot of people have gone home. Not so many people coming in from local, so people are the vendors are a little less busy. So when they come back next year, and I hear there's going to be another one next year. Oh, hey, there's Terry and Terry.
Hey,
Come over and say hi. Anyway, so yeah,
we'll get them on.
We'll catch them next time. But anyway, yeah, they're going to have one, I hear, next year. Probably the same weekend in July. I don't know how that works out as far as dates, but
probably the number, whatever weekend
Yeah.
number.
So we'll definitely be here again next year, and hopefully we'll have some Astro van friends with us too. So, and
We didn't see any other Astro vans.
not one, but that's okay.
People think it's really cool.
We're
so.
capitalizing on the uniqueness of the show.
Yep,
right?
definitely.
Anyway, so
Right.
yeah, super cool. Okay, so we had one more goal while we were here at the Expo, or the Overland Expo Pacific Northwest. I really, really, really wanted to meet Michael from Conquest Overland, but both times we were here at the iCamper booth, he was not here. So just as proof, Michael, we were here. You weren't. So, well, next time we'll have to catch you next time.
You thought we forgot about you.
So the one good thing about going to the expo, our primary mission, or one of our primary missions of going to the expo, was to get a refrigerator. And I can say that was a success. Now, the expo is huge. Literally, we were there 2 days. We didn't see, there was an entire section that we just completely missed. We're definitely going Friday, Saturday, and Sunday next year. If you have an opportunity to go, you want to go Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. There's no way you're going to see the whole thing otherwise. Especially Pacific Northwest. I can't speak for the other expos, but I know Pacific Northwest, it was a very large area. Things were really spread out, but there was also a lot of vendors there. So we didn't see everything. But the first day that we went out on Saturday, we walked around, and we didn't really see a lot of refrigerators. And the vendors that I was looking for weren't there. I had my eye on an IceCo refrigerator, 45 quart IceCo refrigerator that I was looking at. I knew I could get it online. I could order it for around $600 with the promo code that I had. Probably have to pay tax on top of that, so it's going to be between $600 and $700. And it had some pretty good reviews. I'd read a lot about it, and people really loved it. And it was kind of that was my low that I was going to go for. That was the price range I was shopping in, was between $600 and $1,000. And so we walked around, didn't really see anything. And then a couple people had pointed out different places where they had seen them, and we went and checked it out. And we found a vendor that had some ARB refrigerators. They were really nice, but man, they were just a little out of my budget. The one that I could afford was kind of smaller than I wanted to go. I was kind of looking in the 45 quart range, and this one was only like a 36 quart, and I was just concerned about spending as much money as I wanted for it for something that was smaller than what I was looking for. And then I found another vendor that was selling Dometics, which was a brand that I kind of had my eye on, but those two were a little higher than I wanted. I was really looking for a smoking deal at the expo, and while they were all giving discounts, they weren't quite the discounts that I was hoping to score, you know. And then somebody told me about the vendor where I got this one. And we went and checked it out. Now, this CSI Black Ice refrigerator freezer is not a brand that I'd heard of before. So I hadn't really had an opportunity to do much research on it. Trying to do it on my phone was a little bit frustrating. Couldn't really find much. But man, the price he was looking for it was really, really good. This thing normally sells for about $600, so it's kind of on the lower end. So my expectations were pretty low, and we were able to get it for $400. It has all the same features that the IceCo has in it. The warranty is about the same. But this is a dual zone. It wasn't the IceCo I was looking at was only a single zone. This is a dual zone. It has a divider in the middle of it, and then one side of it, if you set it up to freeze, and it'll freeze on that side, and then the other side is just a refrigerator. And so it works really well that way. It'll actually serve our needs very well, because if you want to make it a single zone, you just take the divider out, and then it's all one temperature in there. So then it just becomes either a freezer or a cooler. It has 3 different power connections. You can plug it into 110, 12 volt lighter socket, or a 12 volt plug socket that's with the screw in type, which is really cool. It's got an app. I can keep track of the temperatures on my phone, set the temperatures on my phone if I want to. Just a really, really, really great little fridge. Now, after I got home, I went online and did some searching and reviews, and there's not a lot of reviews on it. There was a couple of commercial reviews on it. I don't put a lot of trust in commercial reviews because oftentimes they're paid for their reviews. So I really wanted to see what people that had been using them, what their experience was with it. And so if you have had experience with one of these, I would really love to hear what your experience was. Please leave a comment. I want to know what kind of things I'm going to run into with it. But at the price point we were getting it at, I couldn't really pass it up, because that meant I had more money to spend at the expo on some other things that we want. But I'll get to that in a minute. I did actually, one of the things that I did find in one of the reviews, one of the commercial reviews actually, was that the disappointment in this is that it's not really great for dustproof and weatherproof for all of the components inside. They don't have any protection for that. And so that can be a problem for these. Now, if this is going in the back of a pickup bed like a lot of Overlanders do, that would really be a serious issue. It being in the back of the van and being inside of an enclosed compartment most of the time, I don't think that's going to be a problem for me. At least not driving around. Now, when it gets taken out, kicked around camp, that kind of stuff, it might get dust in it. That could shorten its life. But for now, we're going to go with it, and we're going to see what we get out of it, and watch for future episodes to see if we have any serious problems with it. You can learn this with me. Because really what it came down to for me, I was sold on the price point. For $400, I couldn't really go wrong. As long as it's a refrigerator, a functioning refrigerator, and it works, and I get at least a year out of it, I'm happy. That buys me a little time to shop and get something better. But we did, by saving that much money, we were able to buy this. This is a really cool setup. There were several people around the expo that had them. Our original plan was to take our we have like a big round gas fire pit that we got from Home Depot. It's one we just use in the backyard, and we thought, well, we'll just take that out there, because in the Pacific Northwest, when you go up into the woods in the summertime, they usually have fire bans, and you cannot have a campfire, but oftentimes you can have a propane fire pit, that kind of thing, because it's in a contained space. There's no sparks, there's no embers, there's no anything like that. So fire pit is legal in dispersed camping as long as it's a propane or a gas fire pit. But the fire pit we were going to use is huge. And we saw these things, people were using them out there in their camps, and I'm like, what is this? It's an ammo can, it's a fire pit. That's brilliant. I thought that they had just made them, or they had a little fire in an ammo can, which is kind of a cool little, cool idea. But then we found out that these things are actually made, and it's commercially made. You can buy them. And it's the coolest thing, because literally when you want to set up camp, you just fold out the legs. This is the part that makes it legal. The fire's not actually on the ground. You're setting your fire in a pit off the ground. Pop the top off of it. Plug the hose in, hook it up to your propane tank, and you got a fire pit. And the nice part about it is it's small enough, you could put a little grate on here, you could heat up your water for your coffee, you'd probably cook on it, you know what I mean? But the best part is you've got a little campfire, so you're not just sitting there in the dark. You got a little campfire, you can sit around and talk, and roast marshmallows on it, whatever it is you want to do. And then when you're done, you just put the lid back on. Obviously you probably want to let it cool down. Put the lid back on, fold the legs up, and you're going to stow it in that little teeny tiny space, as opposed to a great big 36-inch fire pit. And that's the part that I love. So one of the things that we learned going around and talking to all the experienced overlanders is overlanders run into two issues. You're either going to run out of space, or you're going to have too much weight. Weight's an issue, space is an issue. Well, we don't have an issue with space. We're going to build this thing out like an overland rig, so we got plenty of storage space. That's not a problem. But weight will be an issue. This thing weighs a fraction of what that great big fire pit does. So this is going to be a really, really great addition to our Overland kit. I'm excited to use it. We're going to use it on August 6th when we go up on our trail ride. And I'm excited to see how that turns out. The other thing we got by saving the money by getting a little refrigerator, same guy that sold us the refrigerator, he has, it's a really cool camp light that's on a pole, and it extends up 20 feet. It's LED, and it plugs into your 12 volt, so it doesn't draw a lot of electricity. Super, super cool setup. The best part of it is your light is 20 feet up in the air. That's where the bugs are, 20 feet up in the air. They're drawn to the light, away from you. You can set it out away from camp a little bit, and it literally will light up your entire camp. So, and he actually showed me some pictures of his camp being lit up by one single 12 volt LED light. I was like, I gotta have it. I think it was like $150. But if it works even half as good as what he said it does, it's gonna be worth every single penny. So we did learn a lot about building out the inside of the van. I think we're not going to start building out the inside of the van until after we get our rooftop tent, because we're still going to need to use the inside of the van for sleeping for a little while. So this year it's going to be a little rough hauling stuff in and out of the van. I'm kind of excited that we're going to get to document that in our videos, because you're going to get to see this van evolve into the Overland rig that it will ultimately become. Let's talk a little bit about the van and the trip. So I was really excited when we filled up the van. So before we went on our trip, I decided to get the brakes done, because the front brakes needed to be done. We needed new rotors. They were shot. But I also replaced the serpentine belt, and when I did, I replaced the idler pulley and the tensioner pulley, because something in there was making a racket. I don't know if you heard that in the last video that we did, but it was chirping and squeaking loud. And so I just decided to replace it all while I was in there, and whatever it was, we got it, because it's not making that noise anymore. When we filled up, well, before we did the lift, we were getting around 12 miles per gallon driving around town. And so we fueled up before we left, and most of that tank was after we had done the brakes. And we were getting about 11.6 miles per gallon after I added in the tire, what I call the tire penalty. We're running bigger tires, so my odometer is about 8.7% off. So when I add that 8.7% back on, we're getting about 11.6 miles per gallon. So, my thought is, if I'm only losing a half a mile per gallon with running these bigger tires in this lift driving around town, I'm okay with that. That's not bad at all. But then we took off and we headed to Redmond, and we drove all the way to Redmond on less than a quarter of a tank of gas. It's 170 miles, something like that. That's really good. That was really good. And so then after the expo, we were headed on our way back. We swung into Madras and topped off there, and I was getting over 16 miles per gallon driving on the highway. That's tremendous. I don't know if I've ever gotten 16 miles per gallon with this thing. So not only, I wouldn't say we're getting better mileage, but I definitely feel like we're not getting worse mileage. And that is the important thing. Super, super happy with that. Now, we are having some power issues. The bigger tires, things are struggling a little bit on the grades. We had to go over, I think the pass going over Mount Hood is like 4,000 feet. So we had a pretty good climb going up there, and things got a little warm going up over that grade. And I think that's because we had to, the engine dropped in the engine bay when we did the lift, and so we had to cut out a little bit of the fan shroud to make room for the fan. And so we've lost a little bit of that pressure we get plenty of airflow, but we don't have any pressure, because that pressure escapes out through where the top of the fan is. There's a gap there. And so we're losing some volume there, and so I think it's working a little harder to keep things cool. So I'm probably going to have to look into doing something with the cooling system. I'm thinking I'm going to convert it over to an electric cooling system, electric fan. But that's going to take some research, and I got to look into that and figure that out. I'll definitely be doing that before we go back over the pass again. But otherwise, the van did great. Super happy with it. No complaints at all. Sleeping in the back of the van wasn't so bad. But I'm definitely excited to get that rooftop tent and get the rack in next year. And definitely, and so we're kind of holding off on the build out until we get the tent and we get the roof rack on, because we are going to need to use the back of the van for sleeping this year. We're going to get a quick, easy up tent to put on the ground for the other two of us, and two of us will sleep in the van. So we're going to need that space. We can't really do the build out yet, but once we get the roof rack up and the tent up, then we'll be doing the build out. So all of this we kind of figured out just by going to the Overland Expo. So if you have a chance to go to Overland Expo, you definitely want to go. I highly recommend it.